All right, earlier on today, someone asks me what sickle cell disease is all about. They had no clue. And I give them a pass because they're white, right? And sickle cell disease is primarily a black problem. But then I got thinking, it's like, and I thought to myself, well, why don't we just make a short video that kind of like gives people an overview? And that's really why we're doing what we're doing, right? Most of what we do, most of the money we raise goes towards research and towards charity in Nigeria to help to feed and to take care of people with sickle cell disease and other brain conditions. So here we go. Listen close. All right. So everybody's bones, or people's red blood cells, let's put it this way, red blood cells are made from the bones. Now, sickle cell disease is primarily a problem of the red blood cells. There's a mutation, there's a shift, there's a change, a tiny mutation, very tiny mutation in the genes of a person with sickle cell disease that makes them more prone to a phenomenon called sickling. So let's take a look at it here. So the bone produces the red blood cells. Every red blood cell is made from the bones and the spleens. Let's not get into that. The red blood cell made in a sickle cell disease patient, and I need people to understand this. The red blood cells made in a person with sickle cell disorder disease is looks identical to that made by the average person. The only thing is that when it comes under situations of stress, that could be infection, that could be emotional stress, that could be physical stress, that could be low oxygen supply, it could be uh, malaria, whatever it is, the body's under stress. It turns from being a normal looking nice red blood cell into a sickle shaped cell. Then once it becomes a sickle shaped cell, actually have this going the wrong way. One of two things, one of two categories of things can happen. I'm going to point this here. Once it becomes sickle shaped, and I'll get to that in a minute. But so here's what a normal red blood cell looks. It takes about 120 days. It has a lifespan of 120 days. A normal, an abnormal or a sickle cell, a cell with the mutation in it, and this is not a good mutation, obviously. So those of you who watch too much Marvel and DC, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a bad mutation. It lasts only about 20 days. So that's the main thing you want to hear. You want to see here. The other thing is that it's sickle shaped and it's hard and bristle. And one thing you want in a red blood cell is that it needs to be flexible, it needs to be soft. That way it can get pass in and out of the bloodstream, it can squeeze through tight spots, it can get to where it needs to get to, so it can provide oxygen to the parts that it needs to get to the parts that need oxygen, and that's every part of the body. So the key thing is that it has to be soft and pliable and rubbery and flexible. That's not what happens when it becomes sickle shaped. It loses its watery. It loses its hydration, and it becomes hard and stiff and brittle and sickle shaped. Now that's where the problems begin, because once that happens, it tends to block blood vessels, and so you have. Let's just draw this real quick here. In the larger blood vessels, there's not much of a problem. Like the aorta, for instance, you don't have sickling in the aorta because that's a very large, high pressure artery. But when it comes to the smaller arteries, right, when these branches get smaller and smaller and smaller, these sickle shaped cells have greater likelihood of blocking those arteries. And like I said, the cells need oxygen. Every cell needs oxygen. So once there's a blockage here, there could be problems. The cells, they could get weak, they could get disease, they could die, and many times they emit a lot of signals, distress signals that cause pain in the individual's body. And that's why you hear about people having so many pain crises. It's not just pain crises. It could be a stroke. This is the brain right here. It could be a stroke, and that's really how we got involved in the picture, because parents started bringing us kids with strokes. That was the first time in over 20 years that I looked at sickle cell disease again. It could cause problems in the eye, problems seen. It could cause problems in the heartbeat. It could cause kidney problems. It could cause bone problems. That's, like I said, that's kind of like the commonest thing, where the bones, where the blood supply to the bones is compromised. There's a lot of pain, especially in younger children, in the fingers and toes, the hands, those small joints. There's a lot of pain, and I mean it is distressing to see the parents. There's nothing they can do. Many of them who live in remote areas don't have access to hospitals. If they did, they'll bring them to hospitals and they'll run a drip. They give them fluids, they give them pain relievers, and so on and so forth. But most of them don't have that kind of access. So they're in bad shape. They just spray and they use all kinds of local medications and concussions and herbs to try and suppress it. But it goes on and comes up. It goes on, kind of like an asthmatic attack, right? With asthma, they exert it. They tend to have labored breathing. They're gasping for air. Some of them could die from it. So think about an asthmatic attack of the bones, kind of thing. The other thing that can happen to these sickle-shaped cells is that they could just suddenly, spontaneously erupt. So they just break down. The cells just break down, and this, when they do that, they spill out their contents, the hemoglobin, the iron, and all that toxic stuff that's inside the cells, that's safe inside the cells. They spill all those contents out, and those can cause a lot of problems as well, including damage to the lining of the blood vessels. And if you watch our videos on the cardiovascular system, you know how important that is. So let's get back. Let's get to the solution. I don't want to spend too much time on the problem because the solution is much more important. What we found out was that using ACE Mannan, an immune support supplement that is made from the extracts of of the aloe vera plant. Aloe vera. All of you know what the aloe vera plant does. We found that the ACE Mannan significantly. Now, we're going to do research and probably we'll find out exactly how it works. But the theory at that time was that since most kids with sickle cell disease have depressed immune systems, we thought that, well, why don't we see what happens if we strengthen their immune systems using ACE Mannan? And lo and behold, we saw significant improvements. Everything from less fatigue, less pain. They were able to sleep well. They weren't missing school anymore. They could pick up fights with their peers in class, and they didn't get out of breath. Not I'm saying that you need to encourage your kids to fight, but if the situation warrants it, why not? So we saw significant improvements and better sleep as well. And so that kind of like was an eye opener, and we were like, we could not pursue this and see where it ended or where it landed, because we saw it as a response. If it was so easy to address this, I didn't think it was going to be possible. I mean, sickle cell disease is a genetic condition, and we all know that you can't really treat genetic conditions. But lo and behold, these kids were actually behaving like normal kids, and so we saw it as our responsibility to really lean into it and see how far it goes. And that's why we're doing research into it. We've gotten permission from the Lagos state governments. We're still working on permission from Abuja and from Ekiti State. So I'm trying to get from our Ekiti State people as well to do this research and to really quantitatively and qualitatively demonstrate that strengthening the immune system in individuals with sickle cell disease can be a key part in their success. And beyond that, we want to basically change what is commonly being recommended for these kids. Right now, the standard recommendation is folic acid and antimalarials. That's it. Folic acid, antimalarials. If needs be, they would add a multivitamin, but for the most part, it's just those two. Well, that's not enough. I mean, it's like sending your army out, your soldiers out to war without arming them with the weapons they need to fight and defend themselves. They're exposed and defenseless, quite frankly, and that's what's happening with sickle cell disease. These kids are going out into the environment. They are being assailed by malaria parasites, by bugs, by viruses, and they have no defense or very little defense. We can change that. We can tip that scale. We can tip the balance in their favor. And so, with your help, I hope we'll be able to do that. So right now, we're doing we're about to embark on a 6-month project, and if you need to, I would love to get your support. There's a link below where you can click on, and it'll show you how to donate, and if there's any other way you want to support, we would really appreciate it. Please share this video as much as you can. Thanks. Bye.